Hey everybody, welcome back to Real Estate Bites. This is episode 107, coming to you live here on Facebook and LinkedIn most Fridays during the lunch hour. Today's topic is Realtor Safety. All right, so September is Realtor Safety Month from the NAR, and they got a lot of webinars and classes, and they have a little extra emphasis on Realtor Safety. And what I'm about to talk here, obviously I'm talking to agents, and it's funny because what I've come to realize from my viewership here in Real Estate Bites is while there's a good number of people from the consuming public who aren't necessarily professionals in the industry, and there's a good number of people who aren't even local, I mean, out of state people who watch this, the majority of my viewers are actually real estate professionals, agents, appraisers, inspectors. I get a lot of feedback, investors from professionals in the industry about Real Estate Bites. So I wanted to make sure that I can address my peers every once in a while. So this one is specifically about realtor safety. However, some of these principles, they should just be adhered to, period, no matter what you're doing. So let's rip it off. I am going to read a number of statistics that I got from the National Association of Realtors website about realtor safety. I'm going to react to them. So there's 5 points here. 5 stats that I'm going to read and react to. Number one, 43% of realtors say they had met a new or prospective client alone at a secluded location or property. And guys, this sounds like it should be common sense that you just don't do that. You just don't, hey, never met you. You want to see this house? Absolutely. I'll be right there. You shouldn't do that. Of course you shouldn't do that. But to any layperson who's not working in this every single day, you got to understand that we have been in I would say, a severe seller's market, a low inventory, highly competitive market since COVID. And there are occasions where if that property that this prospective buyer wants to see, if you know your marketplace and you know that this property is a hot property and it's going to go quick, you got to respond quickly. That said, if it's not like that, if it's not a super hot property and you can't put together some safety protocols, before going out and meeting somebody, you need to have a buyer consultation. You need to invite them into your office where it's your grounds, not even a neutral location. Invite them to your office, right, for a consultation. If they're not willing to come, they're not a real buyer. That's the first step in qualification, okay? If you can't do that, if you feel desperate enough that you need to go meet them, you need to respond to the marketplace and get out there immediately, even if you're putting yourself at risk, well, then maybe you should give me a call and let's have a sit down. We'll talk about your business practices and discuss how to be a little more strategic and intentional with it, okay? All right. You should not go and meet people all alone. The way to stay ahead of your own safety is in the planning process. It's in what you do before you ever meet the client and screening them and taking a look at their background. We actually, as realtors, we have different apps that are available to us. I know in our local association, we have free access to an app called Forewarn, where you can plug in a cell number and it gives you a limited background check and you can see what kind of person you're dealing with. There's another paid for app called Tether, which might be the best in the service. Same thing. This is an app that you can set up all kinds of safety protocols. Like, if you're at a place for longer than you should be, it sends emergency messages out to people that you plug in there, right? There are tools that are out there for you realtors to use. Be safe and plan appropriately. All right. Don't just knee-jerk react to the marketplace, but plan for your own safety. Next stat, 67% have personal safety protocols in place that they follow with every client. You know what, guys? I don't believe it. I really don't. I think 67% say they do because they can sit there and recall when they heard this stuff, and they can talk about, whenever you enter a home, be behind them. Always keep yourself between the exit and the client, things like this, which you should do, of course, but do they do it? Do they do it religiously? I don't think so. I've known lots of agents. I've talked to lots of agents. They all can cite these things from their head because they've heard it before and they know it makes sense, but they're not actually putting it into practice. I do not believe whatsoever that 67% have personal safety protocols in place that they follow with every client. This is more likely among women. 75% of women with personal safety protocols. I don't believe it. And if there are safety protocols, they're probably not good enough, ladies. All right. Next stat. 47% of realtors said that they have participated in a self-defense class. Okay, great. But I got to tell you, if you participated in a self-defense class and you're not actually practicing what you learn or going through reps, it's almost worthless, right? Because in everything, people do not rise to the occasion in a high stress situation. They fall to the level of their training. So you go to a self-defense class and you sit and observe and you walk away, you have just wasted however much time you sat in there. You might be able to speak on what you saw. You might be able to talk about how now that is your safety protocol that you do with every client. But if you don't practice any sort of self-defense, you don't have any sort of self-defense. It's worthless unless you go through the reps, create the muscle memory, and understand exactly what you're doing and why the tactic is supposed to work, okay? Here's another one. 52% of men and 60% of women carry a self-defense weapon or tool. And that's great. And so I have, with my team in the past, taken them to the range, taken them to self-defense classes where they had to go through the reps. I've got this other little bit of stat sheet in here talking about who's got what sort of, self-defense weapon or tool on them right here. They're saying 44% of people don't even carry one. 22% of agents claim they carry a firearm. 15% say they carry pepper spray. 12% say they carry a pocket knife. High-powered flashlights, tasers, batons. That's kind of funny. Who carries a baton to a showing? But at any rate, so you carry your self-defense weapon or tool. Now, I know a lot of people who claim to carry whatever they carry, but they seem to leave it in the car an awful lot. Looking at you. So anyways, they seem to leave it in the car. Well, if you're in the house and the guy you're showing is a bad guy, what is the weapon in the car going to do for you? Or here's another thing. I carry it in my purse. I don't know a single criminal. I've never run across a single criminal that's going to say, wait a minute, I'm sorry. I need to play fair here. I'll give you a chance to get that pepper spray out of your purse. Okay. That's, if you got it in your purse, it's worthless, right? That thing needs to be extremely handy, if not already in your hand. You need to practice deploying whatever tool it is, whether it's a pistol, a knife, pepper spray, whatever it is that you're carrying to defend yourself. If you're not practicing getting it out and into the fight to defend yourself, you're probably not going to be able to do it if you ever need it. Okay. And God forbid you ever need it. I mean, we don't do these things because, it's what we expect. When I started, carrying a weapon in self-defense, I would get this from my family all the time. What do you expect to happen, Dad? We're just going to the grocery store. We're just going, what do you expect to happen? Honestly, I expect to go and do whatever it is I set out to do and return home peacefully with no problems whatsoever and to have a beautiful day and return safely to my family. That is what I expect pretty much every single time that I go out. But I'm not preparing for what I expect. I'm preparing for the unexpected, right? Ask all those people who got shot up in the grocery store in Buffalo or at a synagogue or a church or at any sort of public event where guns went off and people got shot or stabbed or run over by a truck. They didn't expect that to happen. They got up and they went to have a good time or take care of chores or whatever it is they were going. They had no expectation that bad things were going to happen. So that's not an excuse. All right. It's not an excuse to not be prepared and to not consider your own safety. All right. Especially when you're going to go show places. It wasn't too long ago, guys. And I've talked about this in previous episodes. It wasn't too long ago that a couple of men tried to abduct a lady in North Ridgeville. They called her out to a showing. She went. She didn't meet him first. Clearly didn't have a safety protocol in place. Met these two men and these pigs tried to abduct her. Luckily, she fought like hell and got away. And they got arrested. Thank God. But they tried. That's local. All right. It's in our backyard. She didn't expect it, but it almost happened. All right. So if you carry something, you better be practicing how to get it out and into the fight. Oh, and by the way, if you're carrying, let's say you carry a pepper spray, do you know it's going to work? Do you know if it's potent? Do you have the courage to spray it in the air while you stand downwind of it and let it come back in your face and burn to make sure that it's actually going to be effective? Maybe you should, but at least have it handy. At least know you can get it out and squirt it and run like hell. All right, next one. Last one, and then we'll get into stats. Among those who participated in the Realtor Safety course, 71% said they feel more prepared for unknown situations after taking the safety course. Well, by God, I hope so, right? Because what good is a safety course if you don't feel more prepared after you take it? I know that the self-defense course I brought my team to, again, we didn't talk about, martial arts moves. They weren't teaching throat punches and roundhouse kicks and crap like that. Very simple, basic moves and ideas. How to break a grip if someone grabs onto your shoulders. If someone is trying to wrap their arm around you from the back, what move do you make to get out of there? And once you create some space, we're not trying to teach you how to fight. We're trying to teach you how to run and scream and call for help. That's real self-defense, all right? Go and joining karate, if you're a 115-pound young lady, is probably not the right idea. It's better than nothing, but probably going to give you the bad idea of what self-defense really is. Self-defense is not picking and winning the fight with the bad guy. Lots of people, I think it was a quarter of realtors said that they have felt unsafe in a situation. And I got to tell you what, I'm one of them. All right. I've been in showings where the seller was acting very strange and did not want to leave. And I just had them lead us on the tour, and I always stayed close. My people were very uncomfortable. I was very uncomfortable. I've gone into houses that were, potential investment properties, or, where I go into houses in some of these places, and I'm always wary if there might be squatters in there. I've gone into houses where I've opened the door and there's a very peculiar smell. Not 100% certain, but I think maybe they were cooking up drugs. Didn't smell like food, smelled like chemicals, right? I've gone into showings where I've knocked on the door. Things seemed weird. I've yelled into the house, announced my presence. I got no response, and eventually found the sellers in the house. They didn't respond to me, but they were there and they were awake. One was sitting on a chair in a bedroom, and the other 3 times that it happened to me, the people were lying in bed, right? Crazy and weird and super uncomfortable. But these things happen. So anyways, that's this week's spiel about realtor safety. For NAR, September is Realtor Safety Month. And come on, folks, take care of yourselves out there, right? All right, let's get into this week's. Oh, one more thing before I get into stats. Probably the most important thing when it comes to protecting yourself, right? And that is to trust your gut. I want to show you here this book that I read some time ago, an excellent book by a fellow named Gavin DeBecker. Gavin DeBecker was the personal psychologist for one young Brooke Shields when she was the most sought after, glamorous woman in the world. And the amount of fan mail, creep mail, stalkers, just to sick dudes that were desperate for Brooke Shields' attention was astounding. And I mean, not surprising that celebrities get attention like this, but the amount of it, the amount of crazy dudes out there that really think their destiny was to marry Brooke Shields as they lived in their mom's basement, working in some weird low-level job, but believe that their destiny was to marry Brooke Shields is it's frightening. It really is. And so Gavin's whole job, I mean, his major job through the 80s was teaching her how to cope with this and how to handle it and stay sane and stay safe. And so the basis of this book, The Gift of Fear, is so many women, especially, end up in a situation where their gut is telling them this is wrong, but they allow either themselves to trick them into thinking, no, you're just overreacting. This is crazy. You're overreacting. It's not that bad. Or they allow the other person to convince them that they're not in danger and something terrible happens. So the whole point is trust your gut. Trust your gut, right? If it feels weird, it probably is. If you're in a situation and you don't feel right, and the other person is like either trying to talk you out of your anxiety, telling you you've got nothing to fear, don't listen to them, right? They're either naive or trying to bait you or whatever. An honorable person who sees your anxiety is probably going to apologize for making you feel that way and asking if you want to end this whole situation, because they don't want you to feel that way. But if you're in a situation and you don't feel right, someone's asking you to, hey, come take a look at this closet, come take a look. Will you climb up in the attic for me? And it doesn't feel right. They're giving you the creeps. You need to trust your gut feeling on that. Okay. That is something that's hardwired into us as a survival instinct, as human beings from the dawn of mankind. All right. So, all right, enough prattling. Let's get into the stats. So here we go. Episode 107. This morning, there were 477 single-family homes and condos available in Lorain County for sale. Again, I don't look at multifamily and I do not look at mobile homes. I'm only looking at single-family homes and condominiums. Again, we're still in this super, super low inventory environment. There were 74 closed sales last week in Lorain County. The median square foot of those homes sold was 1,770. The median value of homes sold last week was $301,238. It's a fun number. Median square foot value, $182.39. I'll say it again, guys. I say this every week ad nauseum, but if you want to know what's going on in our market, tune into Real Estate Bites and watch this statistic line with me. Column G, okay? The median square foot value is what we're tracking to see what's going on with prices. And as we can see, back here at the beginning of this program, 107 episodes ago, we're right around $147 a square foot. That's our median, right? And it's just crept and crept. Here it is, $148.32. The first quarter that I did this program, that was the average median square foot value. Now we're in the 180s, guys. Home values are continuing to go up. It is a function of supply and demand. We got low supply. We've had pretty static demand, okay? I sat with Jay Sloan in here about a month ago, maybe a little bit more. We talked about how he saw buyer activity slowing down. Clearly, it's not enough to keep prices from creeping ever higher. Median days on market, 16, just over 2 weeks to put a house on the market, market, advertise, get showings booked, receive offers, negotiate offers, and move through the contingency periods of both inspections and financing. All right. That's all it's taken is a little over 2 weeks to go through that whole process before it comes off the market. Homes are still flying, right? 6.37% was what the 30-year conventional note, that was the interest rate on the 30-year conventional note when I checked the market this morning. And the big sale of last week was $1.3 million in Lorain making its second ever appearance here as the big boy in Real Estate Bites. In 107 episodes, we've seen Avon Lake a lot. We've seen Avon a lot. This is only the second time Lorain has showed up. And so I would like to show you this big, beautiful home in Lorain, but there's only 2 pictures and it's the same picture. And it's a really crappy picture. So unfortunately, we don't get to see what this, multi-acre, big home in Lorain looked like. So at any rate, that's a wrap of episode 107 in observation of Realtor Safety Month. Wanted to do this one. As always, hey, listen, if you like what you see, tell friends and family about Real Estate Bites, bringing great information to you every week about your local market here. We close it out like this. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. I love you, people. See you next week.